Hey, what's up and hello? This is the Chris Nicole bringing you my views on life, love, and the world of entertainment through my eyes. Good morning. A good ratchet morning it is. Yes, it is. Hope you're well, crew. Hope you're well. Look, let me say something. I will not be in my 40s and 50s arguing on a reality TV show when both, and I say both, of their men are cheating, scandalous fools. Yeah, let's talk about this because one thing for me, I stopped watching Love and Hip Hop all franchises a long time ago because I just felt like they were fake and so unnecessary at this point. Good morning, Lock Queen. Make sure you hit the likety like button on the way in. So last night was the big night for this argument, this showdown between Yandy and Rashida. Rashida. Okay. Um, what are my thoughts on this? One, I feel both of these women are two peas in a pod. And let me explain. I feel both of them are friends when it's convenient. And I say all of that in a sense of when it comes to this show. Now, I don't know how they are with friends outside of this franchise, but when it comes to this whole reality show thing, both of them have been accused of only being a friend when it is convenient, which means no friend at all. Okay. So let's get into it and talk about the deflection, the delusion, and how karma has come back on a lot of folks when it came to them running their mouths, especially about people's children, that we saw in this last episode. So first things first, Yandy and Rashida have also another thing in common. They have cheating men. Now, one can say that Yandy is not married to Mendices, but we already knew that. She said she was not about to marry that man with the toxic baby mamas he had. She did not want them to have her money. Therefore, in her mind, she's common law to him. She feels like that's her husband. It is what it is. They are in a relationship. Both of them have cheaters. Bottom line. And if you ask me, both of them knew for a very long time they had cheaters. I mean, let's be clear. Mendices has a couple of baby mamas. Kurt apparently has multiple baby mamas, even before he got with Rashida. Okay. So at the end of the day, they knew the man that they came into a relationship with, decided to have kids with, and yet instead of them really going upside their head with all of the stuff that they've apparently done, they're deciding to go back and forth with each other. Now, one thing about it for me, Rashida, I was never a fan of hers. And I'll tell you why. When she first came on the show and she got close with K. Michelle, or at least pretended to be close with K. Michelle, I, for the life of me, did not understand how you were so cool with her and then all of a sudden started to push back and literally told this girl in her face that maybe the DV experience that she went through didn't actually happen to her and that she was lying. Then we find out years later that man did have a problem because we saw them on couples therapy, him and Toya, and he was all up in her face, looking like at any moment he was about to blow. So Rashida lost all credibility at that point for me. And I said even then, oh, she's no friend to anyone. She's about who is going to give her the most time on this show. And she would throw anybody under the bus in a heartbeat. Furthermore, for those who definitely have more experience with the Love and Hip Hop franchise, I got turned off. When I tell you the whole drama between her and Kurt and this side baby, I still don't believe that story. Do we have official proof? Official proof, not a fake DNA test, not no fake swabbing of the mouth, that Jasmine and that baby is actually Kurt's, and that is a legit storyline. I do not put it past them that this is a fake storyline just so they can sit up there and continue to create a buzz and they can stay on this show, even if it makes her look like a super duper fool, which is why she has no problem having that girl go on vacations with them, having, you know what I'm saying, like them being in the same house, because in my opinion, it's not a legitimate story in the first place. All right, ma'am. K. Michelle warned us about Rasheeda a long time ago. And she pretty much said when it got hot, all of a sudden she wanted to act totally different. Of course, Rasheeda got upset when she said that, acting like she wanted to bum rush K. Michelle on the stage, and Mona put a stop to that real quick. But we got to talk about Yandy too, because see, Yandy has a reputation also. Now, I never took Chrissy's allegations against Yandy seriously. I didn't take her allegations because I was faithfully watching the show back then. And I felt like Chrissy was upset because Yandy was getting more airtime. She wanted her to play behind the cameras, behind the scenes, and she just wanted her to kind of just be like the puppet on the show. And when people started to feel Yandy and Yandy started to actually get more attention, Chrissy was trying to find any reason to shut Yandy down. But here's the problem with that. See, this is the problem when you play checkers and not chess. Chrissy thought she was bigger than the program. You can't be bigger than a program after one season. Because I don't know if you guys remember when she was like, this is my show. I made an avenue for you. Bow down. Remember when she said that comment? Yeah, and then she found out real quickly they were able to bump her and continue on with the franchise and create other cities. Chrissy thought that she was the show, and she found out she wasn't. If she would have been smart and played chess and knew how to navigate that situation, because you're never going to be bigger than a program when Yandy and Mona have been friends for years and have made millions of dollars together. You think you're going to break that bond? No. If she would have been smart, she would have stayed on, and she really would have been the Nene Leakes of Love and Hip Hop and probably would be making millions of dollars at this point for every season. But pride and ego got in the way. All right. But so I didn't believe her situation. Her and Kimbella was really tight, and Kimbella was pretty much ready to go consistently for Yandy. That situation happened. Kimbella could never articulate, in my personal opinion, what really happened in their situation. But what I did not like, and when she lost credibility for me, is when she tried to tag team and now befriend Chrissy to try to tag team Yandy. That tells me right there, you were never a friend in the first place, because even if you and your friend fall out, you can have your opinion. You can say what you want about your friend, but never sit up there and do that to try to tag team someone who not only mollywopped you, but you know doesn't like your former friend. Juju had something to say about her. Juju, in my opinion, was somewhat believable because to me, Juju never came off with being problematic on the show. But again, when she has so much behind the scene clout, because I do think Yandy can make or break sometimes who's on the show and who's not on the show. We don't know if behind the scenes Juju was upset on some business stuff and looked at Yandy like she was a snake in the grass, for all we know. And then we have the baby mamas. We have the Ericas and the Samanthas. And the reality is that, again, I don't know what happened there, but at one point Samantha was on the show and she was quiet and she seemed to be cool with Yandy. Next thing you know, she was ready to fight Yandy every chance she could get. Again, one thing about it though, they both agreed that Mendices was the problem. Let's not forget that Yandy and Erica, from my understanding, there's an overlapping as far as them being pregnant. All right. So, yeah, we can't really ignore that. Definitely, Yandy has had her own issues in regards to how people may feel about her, whether it's truth or not. But we got to talk about both sides. This is why I said that they're two peas in the pod, and they come off on, at least on the franchise, as they're friends with convenience. There's no friendships with them on these shows. It's truly about who is going to keep these checks going for me, bottom line. All right. So the showdown last night. Again, remind me to not be in my 40s and 50s acting like this. These checks must be really good. But let me tell you, at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to be team Yandy on this situation, and here's why. This started with Rasheeda and Kirk, from what I gathered. Now, again, I don't faithfully watch the show. This is why I would love for you guys to chime in on this. This happened with Rasheeda and Kirk running their mouths about Yandy and Mendeece's relationship, fake marriage, allegedly him cheating, and all of this stuff. It started with them running their mouths. I never saw Yandy run her mouth about Rasheeda and Kurt. She would go on podcasts, talk about, her life, her businesses, and how love and hip hop started. But I never really heard her have a whole segment about Rasheeda and Kurt. So as far as I see it in this particular situation, Rasheeda and Kurt started this. Okay. But again, do both of them potentially throw rocks and hide their hands? Yes. Yes. Especially when, again, the main people you need to have this energy with would be the ones that you sleep next to every night. All right. So in this situation, yeah, in this particular argument, I'm team Yandy. Yeah. Yandy sat up there and said, you clearly like that your husband cheat on you. You have to raise a whole legacy, and you don't have no problem with that. Baby, I said, well, dang, Yandy, like, ooh. Like, oh gosh, like she went there. You know what I'm saying? And but what's interesting is that Rasheeda had the nerve to say, baby, this is my city. There won't be no cameras. In other words, she could get her fired or she can get her removed from the show. You should learn from Chrissy, boo. You should learn from Chrissy. I don't think Yandy and Mona's relationship will ever end. They're close. You don't want to make those type of comments because you could be replaceable. And she had the nerve to say, who's the king and queen of this franchise? It was never you and Kurt. In fact, it was Stevie and Jocelyn who really took this show and this franchise and flipped it upside down. Then she was bringing in stuff about the whole New York and Atlanta thing. And I'm like, Rasheeda, you are married to a man who's from New York. There are so many New Yorkers and Californians at this point in Atlanta. I'm trying to figure out who is truly ATL born and raised, still living in Atlanta. But I don't even know why you talk about something. You hid from New York or you ran from New York. Then what did your man do? You are literally married to a New Yorker. You're married to a New Yorker. So when she was saying that, I said, well, child, that don't make no sense. That's who you married to. He ran down to Atlanta and found you in high school. Oops. She was still straight up in high school. Remember when they said Kurt used to sit up there and come pick her up at the high school? That he was a grown man, wasn't he? Allegedly. So at that point, she was sitting up there talking about how she runs it. Ma'am, you don't run nothing. And what the irony in that situation is, Stevie and Jocelyn were the ones who really took this franchise and made it something. And neither one of them are from Atlanta either. You notice that? Neither one of them are from Atlanta either. Stevie J is from, I believe, New York, and Jocelyn is from Miami or even Puerto Rico. So again, people from Atlanta running the franchise. So as far as I see it, Yandy won this particular situation. And in life, I would say Yandy is running it. Now, interesting enough, she wanted to talk about, I think she even talked about Yandy's clothes. And I'm thinking like, child, your store is straight up Temu certified. It seems like it's not like you have these high fashion. So I don't know what's going on with Rasheeda. What I do know is that it was an epic fail for me. But one thing about it, and two things for sure, you want to keep children off limits. She mentioned something when Yandy was going out, talking about something, you need to get a DNA test on them children. Ma'am, now your children are in some ish. You got so much drama going on with them kids right now. See, this is the problem when you sit up there and you mention children. I would say families off limit anyways, but consider the fact that both of y'all going back and forth about the husbands, fine. But when it comes to them children, yeah, I wouldn't. And here we are with Rasheeda and Kurt literally in a lot of drama when it comes to their kids. But Yandy posted some facts about how this all came about in 2012 for Love and Hip Hop. And this story has not changed because I even remember this story that Jim came. Now, I don't know if Jim created the idea, but it's very possible. It's very possible Jim came with the idea about, keeping up with the Joneses, and it was going to be revolved around him and Chrissy and family or whatever the case may be. And being Yandy, that Yandy was his manager, she went out to actually pitch it with her connects or whatever the case may be, and they liked it. But of course, Jim Jones, being the rebel that he is, didn't see this as a real business situation. He felt like his business was music and music only. So Yandy was like, I'm not about to lose this deal. Mona was already pitching, trying to do a show, and they collabed and came together. Now, Yandy even admits that in the beginning, she should have kept her business tight and made sure that she was involved in ownership. Even Jim Jones said the same thing, because again, just because you have your name down as a producer of the show doesn't mean you're going to get money. Just because you got a title don't mean you getting that ownership and that money. And Yandy admitted that, but apparently now she is an EP, from my understanding, on this franchise. So I guess they've worked out that stuff behind the scenes. But she pretty much said, yeah, this is the story and I'm putting it out there. So just to let it be known that if there wasn't a Yandy, there would be no Love and Hip Hop, period. So then, of course, you had a lot of people saying Team Yandy. You had Sky, you had Bam, you had a lot of people who were on Yandy's side. So that kind of tells me there's something behind the scenes where they not really feeling Rasheeda. But then the messy of all, the messy bottom of it all, Carlos Messy King, in the freaking comment section, talk about something, we love you, Yandy. And Yandy says, sometimes you got to let a ninja know what's up, Carlos. You were there. And she put it in caps. You were there. Why? Because it was his podcast that started this messy nonsense in the first place. See, one thing about it, I don't trust Carlos. I don't trust him. Now, of course, naturally, he has created a great franchise for himself in terms of his reality show, his podcasting, but he's messy. And I don't trust anyone who always claims they love someone or that's their friend. A friend to everyone is a friend to no one. And he's so quick to say, I love Yandy and I love Rasheeda too. You love everybody just so you could try to get the mess and stir the pot. Now, I am hoping, because of course people were under Carlos saying, you need to get an interview with Yandy and Mendices. You need to get an interview with Yandy and Mendices. Yandy, I'm hoping that you're smart enough not to go on his podcast. All you're going to do is make him some money and continue to stir the pot. You said what you had to say. And if you are going to give your side of the story, you create your own channel or you do it on your own platform. You don't need to do it on Carlos King platform. I am hoping she does not. Hopefully she understands what that's all about, because again, he does this so he can get the scoop on the other side, hoping that the other person, the opposing side, will come on his show to give clarity in their opinions. Very masterful as far as being able to create the mess and be able to make your money. But hopefully Yandy can see through that and say, yeah, thank you, no, thank you, which is why I do feel like that's why she said in caps, you were there. In other words, I see you for who you are. So with that, I will say, in my opinion, they both look stupid. Like, you are literally, the main issue is about your men. Granted, Yandy kept saying it's none of your business what my personal relationship is. And I totally agree with that. It isn't any of Rasheeda's business. At the same time, though, you guys are on a reality show. The mess is what sells. And especially with Rasheeda and Kurt, especially Rasheeda looking like Boo Boo the Fool for the past several seasons. Heck yeah, these weak people was going to try to sit up there and take the fire off of them and give it to someone else. Of course. So am I shocked that they did it? No. What I did not like is that Rasheeda was trying to make it seem like she ain't here for the mess. Ma'am, you are here for the mess. And so is your husband, which is why every time they asked him questions about Mendices, he had a smirk on his face. Like, when I tell you the feminine energy is just ridiculous from Kurt, Men typically they don't break those type of codes. They will shut it down. Ain't none of my business. Go ask that man about his business. But he didn't. So that just shows you right there, they're both messy, they're both trifling, and they're doing everything they can to stay relevant for this show. And I say relevant because honestly, for those who faithfully watch this show, if Rasheeda and Kurt was gone, including the Jasmine aspects of it, would y'all miss them? Would you miss them? So I don't think a lot of people would. As a matter of fact, I'm seeing a lot of people say, get them off the show. And what would be hilarious is if Rasheeda and Kurt are booted off the show and they keep Jasmine. That would be hilarious. That would be quite interesting. Or Jasmine becomes a main person on the show and they're just kind of like friends of the show. So let me ask y'all, for those who faithfully watch, do you feel Rasheeda and Kirk is needed at this point? Would you rather see Yandy and Mendices than Rasheeda and Kirk? Because I really never saw it for Rasheeda and Kirk. I never saw it for them. The whole situation, it seemed like everything was forced with them, including swapping what is her youngest child's name, Carter's mouth. Like all of those things. I was just like, y'all doing too much. Y'all are doing way too much, and it's coming off force, and it's a fake storyline. And for the life of me, when they showed the scene with Kurt admitting that Jasmine was potentially, of course, the side chick and had a baby with Kurt, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when she was sitting up there arguing with him and he was talking about he cares, she was like, no, you don't, Kurt. No, you don't. And then she did the whole dramatic, took off the ring and put it on the table. Her acting was horrible. You're not going to be able to convince me that this is your first time hearing about this, and that's your response. There were no tears coming out of her eyes. There was no rage. She was very controlled in that moment, and taking off that ring, that was acting. Y'all not going to be able to convince me that that was her first time hearing about it. So either she knew about it and she was trying to reenact what she already knew, or it was a fake storyline in the first place. And she was trying her best to hold it in that it's fake and they're just trying to go through the motions to give us so-called entertainment. But I like real entertainment when it comes to reality TV. I like the real, not the fake. So at the end of the day, a lot of people thought they were going to come to blows. I don't ever see Yandy coming to blows as much as we saw her with the baby mamas when she was acting like she was about to fight them. Yandy ain't that stupid. She got too much to lose to be sitting up there trying to fight any of these heifers. And personally, I don't think Rasheeda about that life. How many times have Rasheeda so-called bucked up to a K Michelle or whoever the case may be and nothing happened? She always conveniently bucks up when security is right in front of her. I just don't think Rasheeda is about that life. I don't think she's ever been in a fight in her life. She just gives me those vibes that she hasn't. And she probably had people fighting for her, but I just don't see her being a fighter. So I didn't think it was going to get that deep. Honestly, I don't even know at this point if they're going to continue on with this back and forth. Aren't y'all tired of it at this point? I'm tired of it. And for me, I don't even watch the show, but I keep seeing it pop up on my page. And I was like, good grief, these girls, these grown women are still going at it. They're still going at it. Now, one thing I will admit about Yandy, at least she admitted that she stepped out on her husband. I appreciate that. Because it's always the husband or the man that has been known to step out. But she said she got her lick back. And I must say, the man that they showed that Yandy potentially stepped out on when it came to Mendices, that guy, quite handsome and quite tall. Taller than her, because her and Mendices like the same height. So, at least she admit, yeah, I've stepped out on my husband. You know what I mean? Now, has Rasheeda admitted she stepped out on hers? Like, I don't know. Y'all let me know if y'all feel like who's the faker relationship. Is as far as not as far as paper, because we clearly know one is on paper as far as marriage, the other one is not. But as far as fake relationship wise, who's the fakest in a sense of what they're talking about and what they're admitting to. So is it Yandy or Mendices or Rasheeda and Kurt? And I really want to know if y'all feel like that Jasmine storyline with that baby, if that's really Kurt's baby. My instincts are telling me it's not. They created that storyline. Jasmine is in on it, and the way that she stays quiet is by getting paid from the show. Bottom line, that is not going to be able to convince me that that's a real situation. It's not. But as far as also the back and forth, yeah, I think Yandy won this round. She said some things where I was like, dang, Yandy, like, and Rasheeda, while she was trying to blow it off, like, yeah, so what? So what? Yeah, no, honey. She got you on that. You have to raise a whole, if this is a storyline you wanted to go with, even if it's a fake storyline, you are literally raising a whole legacy. You are reminded every single day that this man cheated on you, which is why I personally, as crazy as Rasheeda mama can be, I just don't feel like this is a legit storyline. I just don't feel like it's real. And I feel like they are all in on it to continue to stay relevant on the show. And guess what? It worked. Because honestly, without this storyline, Rasheeda and Kurt probably would have been done a long time ago. It has been this show and this drama between Jasmine and all of them to just keep them going so they can continue to get checks because they need those checks. I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to convince me that you do not need this reality show. Rasheeda and Kurt. Yandy, I think, will be okay without this show. And Yandy came down to Atlanta, which I guess people can move wherever they want to move to. But the reality is, yes, the New York show got canceled. Yandy came down there and built a whole nother franchise in freaking Atlanta. She got her skincare line. I think she got a store down there. She got a restaurant down there. One thing about it, that girl hustles. She enterprises. She knows how she can handle her business. And now she's apparently an EP of this franchise. She's an EP. So, and I'm going to guess that she just don't have the title. She's actually getting paid this time versus what it was that first season of Love and Hip Hop in New York. So my advice to Rasheeda, step back. See, you bucking up like you Chrissy, and Chrissy had to learn the hard way. That pride got to her, and she thought that franchise would be nothing without her. And she found out, yeah, they moved on without you, to the point where literally the 10th anniversary, she came back. Now, for someone who claims they don't need it and she didn't like what it represented and how fake it was, why are you coming back for the 10th season? Because you need the money. You need the money. See, Chrissy don't want to admit it, and that's why she keeps having her anger towards Yandy. Chrissy nor Jim Jones want to admit that they messed up. They messed up big time. That truly could have been their show. And instead of them just recognizing that and accepting that loudly, they want to still continue to come for Yandy. Because even in the 10th anniversary, for the life of me, I was like, you still going back and forth with this girl trying to get your get back. Her success, Yandy's success, there's no get back you can give. She has turned this franchise into hers and has continued to make money while you're coming back trying to hopefully, because I personally feel like she came back for the 10th anniversary hoping that they would give her a permanent contract again. You know she wanted that check. She wanted that 10th year anniversary check. And let's be clear, I didn't mind Chrissy the first season. The second season, she really showed her bully. She felt like she could really bully people, and I can't stand bullies. So as far as I see it, I say all of that to say she learned her lesson the hard way, and Rasheeda gonna learn her lesson the hard way too. You're not going to stop a Yandy bag. Just like you're not going to stop a Mona Scott Young bag. They are going to collab together because, again, they have been doing business for years. Yandy, if I'm not mistaken, right after graduating from Howard, started working with Mona. If not, she was an intern. I think she was even interning, she said, with Mona even before she graduated. And she became a part, I believe, that Violator management that was managing Missy Elliott, Busta Rhymes. She is locked in. They're locked into each other. Yandy ain't going nowhere. Even with Yandy screaming at production saying enough is enough about them sitting up there trying to break up her family, she ain't about to break up with Mona. So and I just don't understand people. Y'all got to learn from history. If anybody's gonna leave, it's gonna be everyone else, and Mona and Yandy will still be there. They will still be there. So Rasheeda talking about how this is her city. Okay. And then furthermore saying that she could stop these cameras. Girl, bye. Girl, bye. Learn from Chrissy when she said, "This is my show. I made an avenue for you. Bow down." Crickets. Crickets. At that point, Jim Jones had lost that house. Chrissy was apparently living in Miami. When I tell you everything went downhill for them after that, and that was one thing I remember that Yandy said. I have sat up there and managed you and have taken you to another level, talking about Jim Jones, and you sitting up there willing to throw away all of that on the business side for a woman who doesn't make you any money. If anything, you make the money and you spend it on her. You know, you kind of being like a Judas at this point, and you know what happened with Judas at the end. He unalived himself. So when she said that, and then all of a sudden Jim Jones' life took a turn for the worse, I said, well, there it is. So Rasheeda, be mindful of what you say, boo, because I'm curious to see what these comments are going to say about if you are really needed, because there are faithful love and hip hop ATLians that are crew who come on my page. Y'all give me the scoop. Is Rasheeda and Kirk needed? Because I keep seeing Team Yandys all over the place, not just from big time reality show people and people who have some type of what you guys would call clout, but even just regular viewers. They are saying the same thing. They're over Rasheeda, they're over Kirk. Okay. And that's what happens when you keep trying to make fake storylines and people are tired of your nonsense. So, with that being said, that is my opinion on the situation. Both of them are too grown. Both of them really need to take that energy to their men who are cheating on them. Okay, they need to really take that energy to the men that are cheating on them, put that energy towards them, but neither one of them want to do that. They want to act like a strong unit, and they don't really want to flip out on their men, but they rather flip out on each other. So I both think they're whack for that. But at the end of the day, when it comes to business and who I feel like is going to stay afloat and continue to thrive, Yandy all day. She's proven that. Because see, Jim and Chrissy thought once they separated themselves from Yandy, she was going to flop. Which is interesting because Rasheeda had the nerve to say Jim Jones' assistant. She was Jim Jones' manager. And yet she still continued to thrive while he did not. And let's be clear, anybody who knows the management business, even if you quit or you get fired, any business deals that you did prior to that happening, they still get their checks. So she was still getting paid off of Jim because Jim actually had some lucrative things going on at that time, like Vamp Life or Vampire Life and his music. I believe she was his manager when he did that Ballin' song, which was like his most popular song. She was still getting checks. Rasheeda, girl, your music. Anyways, she ain't got no music career at this point. That freaking, what is it, that press? I don't know what the heck her name is of her clothing line. It looks like Temu Sheen clothing. And no shade, but it seems like a lot of people use Temu and Sheen clothing and then sell it at an upcharge, which I think is personally trifling. But hey, if people buying it, fine. Outside of that, what else do you have besides this show? What do you have? And I even don't believe that someone broke into their freaking restaurant or bistro that they have. I don't put it past them to do anything they can for insurance scams and fraud and everything else. I just don't put it past them. They just give me those vibes. They really do. But y'all let me know. Y'all can agree or disagree on the situation. That's just my opinion on it. But overall, I think both of them are two peas in the pod. I really do. And I see that the most of you guys are saying y'all don't care for neither one of them. Yeah. Yeah, I think at this point there should be no more back and forth between Yandy and Rasheeda. This was the last back and forth there needs to be. After that, it's like beating a dead horse. What is the point? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the point? But I definitely want your opinion. Denise said definitely not needed. See, this is what I'm saying. Hey, Tracy. Hey, Joseph. Juju's a very pretty woman. Yes, she's very pretty. You said, I think another reason they aren't married is because Yandy said Mendici restitution money from prison. Yeah, that too. That and the baby mama stuff. And I don't blame her for that. She's a businesswoman. I don't blame her for that. Why sit up there? You may love that man, but you need to have your brain and your heart move in different directions when it comes to everything that you built. And everything that you built, you know, you got to be mindful of that. I remember Mona even having conversations with her on the show, like with Mendici was going to prison, and Mona was like, do you really think he wants you to stop your life? Like, Mona was trying to talk some sense into her, like, do not ruin your life over Mendici's. You know, Yandy is a college educated woman who is willing to put all of her eggs in one basket over a project dude. But the thing is, Yandy's from the projects too. See, the thing is, Yandy is the true example of coming from nothing, so to speak, or coming from poverty and really building an empire, and a legal empire. Because apparently Mandici's allegedly built an empire too, but we know what kind of empire that was. But she's a true example of that. But that doesn't mean that she got out of the mindset of wanting a roughneck. You know what I mean? Like she still has that mentality, which is why she was with a Mendici's in the first place. In my personal opinion, she still has that mentality. But one thing I will say that I will give Yandy more than I will ever give Rasheeda is that I truly feel Yandy is about pushing women forward who are about their business. I don't see Yandy trying to purposely block a woman's business who's trying to thrive and get ahead. Like, I don't know. I just don't see that in her. Even if they have the same type of business, I feel like she has that mentality where there's money out there for all of us. Do your thing, boo. I do my thing. I don't see her necessarily hating on that. Rasheeda, on the other hand, I definitely see her being trifling like that. I see her with this nice, nasty vibe that she will literally try to screw over another woman in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. She gives me that vibe. But with that, you guys, let's continue the conversation below. What did you guys think about last night's episode? And furthermore, what do you think about this Yandy versus Rasheeda situation? Are they deflecting and delusional, both of them, and they should be focused on their trifling men? Or do you have a better opinion as far as this situation with Yandy Rasheeda? You team Rasheeda or you team Yandy? With that being said, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you on my next video.